I really envy you. You've stumbled upon an insanely thrilling drama again. If you finish watching and feel it's boring, just come over and slap me in the face. This year Korea has truly gone all out, releasing another top-tier adult-rated series Karma, which shot straight to the top of the drama charts upon release, scoring an impressive 8.4. Though this drama only has 6 episodes, it vividly reveals humanity, fate, and retribution, letting us truly understand what it means that justice may be delayed but it never fails. In the story, a seemingly accidental car crash binds together 6 strangers who have never met, dragging out a chain of dark events including scams, arson, school crimes, and organ trafficking. Friendly reminder, before watching, be mentally prepared, because in this entire drama, not a single person is innocent. Next, let's go through all 6 episodes in one breath, and feel how ruthless people can become when blinded by greed. The story begins with a man named Han Sang-hun, dressed up like a gentleman. He sits in a fancy restaurant, waiting for today's date, Yoo Jong. But unlike before, even before Han Sang-hun could make a move, Yoo Jong took the initiative. Her boldness left Han Sang-hun dumbfounded. This was the first time one of his dates had succeeded, and the woman happened to be such a stunning beauty. The two quickly booked a room, and to set the mood, they each had a few glasses of wine. Tipsy moments followed that we'll skip directly. Soon after, Yoo Jong suddenly received a phone call, saying her best friend's father had passed away and she needed to rush to the funeral home. Even though he had been drinking, Han Sang-hun still decided to drive her there. On the way, he kept yawning, and Yoo Jong, afraid of his dangerous driving, tried to help him stay awake, but that little distraction was enough. Han Sang-hun forgot to watch the road and hit an old man head-on. Drunk driving, reckless driving, and accidental killing. In Korea, this would be enough to send him to prison for life. Han Sang-hun staggered out of the car, praying the old man was still alive. But when he rushed forward, he discovered the old man was already not breathing. Now he was completely doomed. Yoo Jong stepped out in a daze, pulling out her phone to call the police, but Han Sang-hun stopped her firmly. She couldn't report it. As the director of a hospital with a pregnant wife at home, if the truth came out, his life would be over. Just as Han Sang-hun was on the verge of collapse, something worse happened. Yoo Jong spotted a car slowly approaching from a distance. Han Sang-hun quickly used his own car to block the corpse. Luckily, the passing car sped by, but unluckily it soon reversed back.
사고 나신 거예요?
예. 커브길에 차가 좀 미끄러져서요.
아이고.
Afraid the body would be discovered, Han Sang-hun made excuses to drive the car owner away. But just as that car left, a scrap collector suddenly appeared behind them and witnessed Han Sang-hun hiding the body. Seeing the man about to ride away, Han Sang-hun pounced on him like a mad dog, only to knock him into a trash can where he lay motionless. At this moment, Han Sang-hun was completely panicked, losing all reason like a demon. Without thinking, he carried both bodies into the trunk and drove into the mountains to get rid of them. Yoo Jong desperately tried to stop him, but the more she tried, the more agitated he became. He blamed everything on her. But as they argued, the scrap collector in the trunk suddenly woke up. Hearing the sound, Han Sang-hun opened the trunk and beat the man violently.
저 진짜 아무것도 몰라요. 진짜 아무 말도 안 할 테니까 그냥 보내.
Since things had gone this far, Han Sang-hun had no intention of letting him go. He forced the man to take out his phone and transfer 10 million won into the man's account, then ordered him to help bury the old man's body this way. The man became an accomplice, and the three were tied together like grasshoppers on the same rope. By morning, Han Sang-hun first drove Yoo Jong home, thinking the man would leave afterward, but unexpectedly he demanded another 20 million. Left with no choice, Han Sang-hun gave in, and after receiving the money, the man left happily, while Han Sang-hun was left with sorrow. He had only 3 million won left in his account, and repairing his car would still cost 83 million. One fling had left him bankrupt, and his future was bleak. He tried to forget everything and forced himself to act calm at the hospital, but just a few days later, the man came to find him, barging straight into his office. Han Sang-hun knew clearly, the man was there to extort him.
3천만 원만 더 주세요.
뭐?
아무리 생각해봐도 그래. 그게 맞는 것 같아요. 3천만 원만 더 주시면 깔끔하게 정리하겠습니다. 진짜로요. 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 3천만 원만 더 주시면 깔끔하게 정리하겠습니다.
Outside the office were all of Han Sang-hun's subordinates. If he refused, the man would expose everything right there, dragging him back to the start. Helpless, Han Sang-hun promised to transfer another 30 million within a week. There won't be a third time, he thought, but he knew this was a bottomless pit. Gradually, the murderous look returned to Han Sang-hun's eyes. Just then, the repair shop called, and a few casual words from the mechanic suddenly woke Han Sang-hun up.
이상하네. 맞아요, 고라니.
아니 그게 아니라 이 보니 쪽은 움푹 들어갔는데 앞범퍼가 멀쩡하더라고요. 이 달려오는 걸 박았으면 앞범퍼가 날아가야 되는 게 맞는 건데.
He realized he might have fallen into a trap. He immediately replayed the dashcam footage again and again, and what he saw shocked him. The old man wasn't killed by his car, but had fallen from a bridge and hit it. Rewinding and enlarging, the first twist of the series appeared. Above the bridge, a face faintly appeared, and zooming in revealed it was the same man who had been extorting him. So that's the truth. Han Sang-hun was furious he had been wrongly blamed for murder, while that man not only set him up but also extorted him. A complete fraud. He immediately called Yu Jong, telling her to go with him to the police. Even if he ended up in jail, he wanted to expose this man. Yu Jong was utterly confused, but eventually they agreed to meet in the parking lot. But just as Han Sang-hun got into his car, a stranger slipped into the passenger seat, and that stranger was none other than the same man. The unconscious Han Sang-hun was taken to the wilderness, where Yu Jong and the man dug a pit. Preparing to bury him alive, the money had already been taken, and he no longer had any value. But just as the two focused on digging, the resilient Han Sang-hun suddenly woke up. He quietly moved into the driver's seat, planning to escape. But when he saw Yu Jong's face, anger surged inside him. So he shifted gears, started the car, and drove straight at her. Watching Yu Jong painfully lying across the hood, Han Sang-hun felt an immense thrill, completely forgetting there was still someone inside the pit. The man appeared holding a shovel, and with a brutal swing knocked him to the ground, then struck Han Sang-hun again and again until he finally stopped breathing. Now, the storyline turns to the old man who had died. He had a son named Park Jae-young, and the old man's death was all because of him, for he was the one who killed his own father. Park Jae-young wasted his life away, drowning in heavy debt. The creditors broke into his house and tied him up in a secret basement. When Park Jae-young opened his eyes, the sight nearly made him collapse. Beside him, a victim was being cut open by a doctor. With the heart already removed, this was the price of not repaying debts. Park Jae-young begged for his life, and fortunately the creditors gave him 1 month to find the money, then threw him back out onto the street. From that day, Park Jae-young desperately tried every way to get money, but after scrolling through all his contacts, he couldn't find anyone willing to lend him a cent. Just then, the hospital called, saying his father had been in a car accident and was hospitalized, telling him to come immediately, and his father was the very same old man who had been thrown off the overpass. The driver was also at the hospital.
Range Rover Sports Autobiography.
When Park Jae-young saw the nice car he drove, he instantly smelled money and demanded 5 million. The young man looked sincere enough and quickly pulled out a stack of cash, but as he was about to leave, Park Jae-young caught the smell of alcohol on him. Now he had leverage, so he extorted another 3 million. The young man realized he had run into a scoundrel, so he had no choice but to give in. Out of the 8 million won, Park Jae-young secretly kept 5 million for himself, handing only 3 million to his father while lying that the driver was broke. I couldn't get much. Later, when he returned home to bring his father some clothes, he accidentally found a Rolex in the drawer. It seemed the old man had been hiding valuable treasures. He rummaged through everything in the house and unexpectedly discovered an insurance policy, which clearly stated compensation of up to 500 million won. With his mother long gone, wasn't this money meant for him?
5억이면 한 방에 다 해결되는데? 노인네 갈 날만 기다릴 수도 없잖아. 그럼 그냥 기다리다가.
In that moment, countless thoughts flashed through Park Jae-young's mind, and an evil plan was born. He thought of a man, his former colleague Jang Gil-ryong. This man had killed before and served time, now working as a gangster's enforcer, so hiring him for such a job was more than fitting.
너 돈 많이 필요하다며. 큰 돈 한번 벌어볼래? 네가 일만 잘 끝내면은 한몫 잡을 수 있어. 얼마짜리야? 6천.
The terms Park Jae-young offered were tempting. Jang Gil-ryong accepted without hesitation, but he never expected that the target would be Park Jae-young's own father.
내 아버지.
Park Jae-young had already done his homework. There was a small alley his father passed through every day, and one stretch of road there had no cameras. As long as Jang Gil-ryong ran over his father with a car, with no surveillance and no witnesses, intentional murder could be disguised as an accidental crash. To show sincerity, Park Jae-young even recorded their conversation. This way Jang Gil-ryong didn't have to worry about being cheated, and Park Jae-young was determined to trade his father's life for money to save himself. On the night of the plan, Park Jae-young created an alibi by generously inviting friends to a barbecue, then later went to karaoke, finding two women and spending large tips to gain their favor. When Jang Gil-ryong was slow to call, he went to a convenience store to order a burger and wait, doing everything to avoid going home. Meanwhile, Jang Gil-ryong contacted his prison mate Kim Beom-jun because of his fierce looks. Before being released, Kim Beom-jun had given him his number, hoping they could work together after getting out.
나랑 일하나 같이 하기요.
일? 좋지. 어딘데?
The two met up that very night and waited in the alley provided by Park Jae-young. Sure enough, the old man appeared on time, and Jang Gil-ryong immediately started the car, hitting the old man so hard he flew into the air. But the old man was tough and didn't die right away, so they drove the car into him again. They thought the job was done, but as Jang Gil-ryong stepped out of the car, he suddenly heard a woman behind the wall calling the police. The two locked eyes, and the woman bolted. Unfamiliar with the area, Jang Gil-ryong couldn't catch her and lost her at the corner. Knowing they couldn't stay, they quickly carried the old man into the car and fled. But disposing of the body became a problem. Just as they were at a loss, Kim Beom-jun suddenly received a message from Yoo Jong, and attached was a photo of Han Sang-hun. It turned out that Kim Beom-jun and Yoo Jong were high school classmates, and after Kim Beom-jun was released from prison, they teamed up to set up a honey trap. Yoo Jong acted as the bait, and Kim Beom-jun played the enforcer, making a lot of money through this scheme. That day Yoo Jong hooked Han Sang-hun, and normally, Kim Beom-jun should have burst into the room for the setup, but he never showed. Seeing Han Sang-hun's photo, Kim Beom-jun immediately thought of a new way to make money.
연변. 일단 우리 여기서 째주자. 어? 내가 갈 데가 있어. 나머지는 내가 알아서 처리할게.
He then called, pretending to be Yoo Jong's best friend, and woke up the sleeping Han Sang-hun, lying that my best friend's father has passed away. I need to go to the funeral, tricking the drunk Han Sang-hun into driving her to the funeral home. Meanwhile, Kim Beom-jun had already carried the old man up onto the overpass, and at the exact moment Yoo Jong and Han Sang-hun kissed, he pushed the old man down. This way, Han Sang-hun became the scapegoat, and they could use the chance to extort him for money. In his panic, Han Sang-hun buried the old man in the dirt, but the next day, a dog sniffed him out and dug him back up. By chance, a travel blogger passed by, and when he saw this terrifying scene, he was so frightened he even dropped his camera. Not long after, Park Jae-young received a call from the police station, asking him to come identify his father's body. Hearing the news, Park Jae-young was secretly overjoyed, but he pretended to be heartbroken, even hiding in the restroom to practice crying. When he finally faced his father's body, after forcing himself for a while, he still couldn't cry, so he sat in the hallway trying to build up emotion.
어떻게 된 겁니까? 아유, 예, 밤길에 교통사고를 당하신 것 같습니다.
He tried to show how anxious he was by questioning the suspect and mocking the police as incompetent, but he never expected one sentence from the police would leave him completely stunned.
저기요, 이게 단순 뺑소니 사건이 아니라 누군가 고의로 사고를 낸 것 같아요. 고의요? 예, 목격자의 진술이 있었거든요. 사고 차량이 아버님을 한번 쳤는데 거기서 멈추지 않고 다시 이렇게 후진을 시켜서, 그러니까 마치 이게 확인 사살을 하든 말이죠. 목격자가 그렇게 얘기를 했어요? 예.
It turned out investigators discovered the old man had been buried in the dirt, so this wasn't an accidental crash at all. but a clear case of murder. If the case was defined this way, he wouldn't get 500 million won, he wouldn't get a cent. The more details the police revealed, the more shattered Park Jae-young became, and when the officers left, he finally broke down crying, not for his father, but for the 500 million slipping through his fingers. That afternoon, Park Jae-young rushed to the insurance company, wanting to cash out before the case was closed, but because the amount was too large, he was taken to the manager's office, and when the manager looked up, Park Jae-young froze in place. The manager was none other than the young man he had extorted just days earlier. It truly was what goes around comes around. Heaven spares no one. The answer was right in front of him, as the manager flatly refused to pay the compensation for all kinds of reasons. But his trip wasn't entirely wasted. The day happened to be the 30th anniversary of the insurance company, and every customer was given a gift of appreciation. Yet at this moment, only 16 days remained before his repayment deadline. Half his body was already in the coffin, and the 500 million won was completely out of reach. That wasn't the end of it. Jang Gil-ryong even chased him all the way to the funeral home, demanding repayment. Park Jae-young was burning with rage and ready to explode, but within moments he was subdued by Jang Gil-ryong. Jang Gil-ryong gave him 1 week to raise the money, warning that otherwise he would hand the recorder over to the police. But as soon as Park Jae-young got home, Jang Gil-ryong suddenly changed his mind, saying that no matter what, the money had to be delivered by the next day. The news struck Park Jae-young like a bolt of lightning. He was nearly driven to despair.
네가 매를 버는구나. 넌 그냥 여기서 뒤지는 거야. 내 아버지 복수다.
The next night, Park Jae-young sat in the car ahead of time and slammed a hammer into the headrest of the passenger seat, then began mumbling to himself, saying strange things.
날 개빡치게 만들었잖아, 이 개새끼야!
He hid the hammer in the gap between the seats to make sure he could grab it at any time, and set the alarm clock to a 1-minute countdown so he could draw attention and deliver a fatal strike. At that moment, Jang Gil-ryong slammed the car door open, and Park Jae-young immediately lowered his head and lied, saying, "The money is ready, I'll take you to get it right now." But just as the two reached the intersection, they ran into police blocking the road. It turned out that 3 bodies had recently been found in the city, and since the police hadn't caught the killer, they set up roadblocks to investigate. On the wanted poster was an image captured on surveillance when Kim Beom-jun killed Han Sang-hun. The moment Jang Gil-ryong saw the poster, he panicked before leaving. He had told Kim Beom-jun to stay right behind him, and if the police found out, the consequences would be disastrous. Fortunately, Kim Beom-jun was quick and slipped into the woods before anyone noticed. Later, Park Jae-young led Jang Gil-ryong to an abandoned building, where everything went as planned. He started the countdown and handed over a backpack he had prepared. Jang Gil-ryong thought he had finally gotten the money, but when he opened it, all he found was smelly clothes and broken cardboard.
개종제 새끼.
As expected, Park Jae-young's head was smashed with several heavy blows, and he ended up lying on the ground, motionless. Jang Gil-ryong tied him to the seat, and at this time, Kim Beom-jun arrived at the building by following the tracker. As the old saying goes, when disaster strikes, everyone runs for himself, and Kim Beom-jun believed Jang Gil-ryong already had the 60 million in his hands, so without hesitation he stabbed his artery with a bottle. Helpless and losing blood, Jang Gil-ryong was thrown off the high building by Kim Beom-jun. He wanted to keep all the money for himself, but trouble followed quickly. TV stations were broadcasting Kim Beom-jun's wanted notice non-stop, so even if he had the money, he couldn't spend it. While Kim Beom-jun was desperately trying to figure out a way, the unconscious Park Jae-young suddenly woke up, seeing that Park Jae-young's height, face shape, and hair length were exactly the same as his. Kim Beom-jun suddenly had an idea: kill Park Jae-young and take over his identity. Some people may wonder, how can identities be swapped so easily? But the real story was just beginning. Kim Beom-jun put on Park Jae-young's clothes, took gasoline from the car, poured it first over Jang Gil-ryong's body, then over Park Jae-young himself, and finally set the gasoline on fire. From here, their identities were completely switched. He had wanted to erase all traces and confirm the illusion that Park Jae-young was dead, but he didn't realize that several gas tanks were hidden in the corners of the abandoned building. Before he could get out, a huge explosion blasted him through the air, and heavy debris pinned him down like the Monkey King under Five Elements Mountain. Except there was no monk to save him. As expected, Kim Beam-jun was consumed by the flames. No one knew how much time passed before firefighters rushed to the scene to put out the fire. To everyone's surprise, Kim Beam-jun still had a breath of life, though his body was badly burned. After intensive treatment, his life was saved, but his face was destroyed beyond recognition, and his voice could never recover in the end. He truly switched identities with Park Jae-young. When the hospital director came on rounds, he asked for his name.
재영입니다.
The female doctor on duty beside him heard that name and suddenly froze. Those two words were something she could never forget. The story flashed back 10 years, when she was still in high school. Because of her good looks, she had been chosen by the student council to be the face of the school anniversary poster. This made her classmate Yoo-jong jealous, and she carried that hatred in her heart. And that classmate was none other than Yoo-jong herself. Back then, the female doctor, Park Jae-young, and Yoo-jong were all in the same class. To take revenge, Yoo-jong asked Park Jae-young to go on a date with the female doctor. While the two were out walking, two masked men suddenly appeared and knocked them both unconscious. When the girl woke up, Park Jae-young had disappeared, and the two masked men had become three. In that way, the three of them stole away her purity. Fortunately, this time the Korean police acted with unusual efficiency, and quickly caught three masked men for the female doctor to identify. But when the female doctor took a closer look, she was shocked to see Park Jae-young among them, and she hurriedly told the police that he was a good man. Yet one sentence from the police made her world collapse completely.
바로 박재영 저놈이야.
From that day on, whenever she heard the name Park Jae-young, she was filled with hatred. Now, looking at the disfigured Park Jae-young lying in the hospital bed, the female doctor could not be sure if he was the same man who ruined her life back then. So she turned to a renowned old detective he was once a police officer with vast connections, hoping he could dig up information about the three attackers. The old detective soon came back with results of the three men who committed the crime. Two were already dead, one hanged himself in prison, unable to endure the suffering, and another died from a drug overdose that caused his heart to stop. As for Park Jae-young, only one man in Korea still matched that identity.
박재영은 지금 선생님 옆에 있습니다.
병원에 있나요?
어떻게 하셨지? 거기 402호에 박재영이 지금 입원해 있어요. 얼마 전에 폐건물 화재 사건이 있었잖아요. 그 건물 생존자가 선생님이 찾던 박재영입니다.
The female doctor broke down instantly, and the fire of revenge blazed inside her. She rushed straight to Park Jae-young's hospital room, but just as she reached the door, the police came in to take his statement, forcing her to leave temporarily. Inside the ward, the fake Park Jae-young lied skillfully, claiming that he had been knocked unconscious in a car, kidnapped into the building, splashed with gasoline, and that he lost consciousness the moment the fire was lit. As the so-called lucky survivor of the disaster, the police brought in special equipment to collect information, but his severely burned hands left him with no intact fingerprints, conveniently letting him escape identification. No sooner had the police left than the female doctor stormed in with a scalpel. She plunged the blade into his neck, and as she watched him struggle in pain, she stabbed his face several more times in rage. Of course, all of this was only her imagination. In reality, she was still racking her brain about how to take revenge, when suddenly Park Jae-young walked out of the ward, saying his wounds had healed and he was eager to leave the hospital. Seeing her prey about to escape, the female doctor quickly followed.
내가 기억 안 나? 기억 못한다고?
무슨 말씀이신지.
네가? 박재영, 어떻게 나를 기억 못해?
She stared at him relentlessly, not knowing that the real Park Jae-young had already died in the flames of the abandoned building, and the man before her was just an imposter hiding under his identity.
인상 쓰지 말고 똑똑히 봐. 어때? 누군지 알겠어? 네가 기억하는 박재영은 이제 이 세상에 없어. 쳐다볼 용기가 없으면 시발 아는 척도 하지 마.
the female doctor was convinced she had not mistaken him, and when she saw his arrogant expression, she swore to take revenge for the past. Disguised as Park Jae-young, Kim Beom-jun had no idea why the female doctor was tailing him so closely. He was only desperate to shake her off because the insurance company had just informed him that the 500 million won payout had been approved. That news made the fake Park Jae-young ecstatic, but the next sentence struck him like lightning. Park Jae-young's father had left a will stating that all assets, including the insurance money, must be donated to the church after his death. The old man had known his son was wayward and had committed crimes, and wanted to redeem him through this gesture, but the fake Park Jae-young had no interest in redemption, since he carried the identity. He was determined to go to the church and demand answers, yet the moment he stepped outside, the old detective deliberately splashed him with water. As he apologized, the old detective swiftly swapped the painkillers in his pocket with sleeping pills. Everything was part of the female doctor's plan. When the fake Park Jae-young arrived at the church, he shouted at the nun, demanding the return of the insurance money, but she ignored him and presented the will left by the father.
분명 제 아들은 이 상황을 인정하지 못할 겁니다. 행패도 부리겠죠. 하지만 모든 죄를 뉘우치는 날이 올 것이라고 믿습니다. 저는 지금 가장 정상적인 정신 상태로 이 녹음을 남깁니다.
Facing the will, the fake Park Jae-young dared not shout further if the police came. His disguise would be exposed. He left in anger, but as he turned around, he saw the female doctor sitting silently in the back, glaring at him with murderous eyes. He didn't care, casually swallowed what he thought were painkillers, and walked out of the church. On the way home, the drug began to take effect, and the fake Park Jae-young felt dizzy and unsteady. Staggering forward, he realized the road looked familiar. It was the very same road where he and Jang Gil-ryong had run over Park Jae-young's father, the so-called perfect crime scene with no cameras.
씨발 영감탱이 저좀 그.
At that moment, the female doctor appeared again in pursuit. Frustrated by her persistence, the fake Park Jae-young blurted out a confession.
잘 들어. 난 있잖아. 박재영이 아니야. 박재영은 이미 죽었다니까. 내가 왜 너한테 거짓말을 하겠어? 난 네가 누군지도 몰라요.
성당에서 소리까지 지르던데. 아버지 보험금 달라고. 박동식의 아들 박재영이 말이야.
아니, 그거는.
But before he could finish, the drug took full effect, and he collapsed to the ground. Seeing the perfect opportunity, the female doctor pulled out her scalpel, but just as she was about to strike, a man's voice called out to her. It was her boyfriend, a fellow doctor. He had noticed her strange behavior in recent days, even seeing her block Park Jae-young's car, so he secretly investigated and learned about the assault she suffered in high school. He didn't care about her past. He only didn't want her to ruin her future over revenge. After his repeated pleas, the female doctor dropped the scalpel and vented her decade-long hatred by slapping the fake Park Jae-young over and over. Meanwhile, the police reviewing the case photos suddenly noticed a flaw. The fake Park Jae-young claimed he was tied to a chair, but firefighters had found him outside, while another burnt body sat in the chair. The contradiction between his testimony and the evidence made the police suspect his real identity. They immediately called him, telling him to stay home and wait for verification. Sensing danger, the fake Park Jae-young packed his things to flee. While searching for his passport, he found a school flyer inside a shoebox, and when he saw the female doctor's picture on it, everything came back to him. Kim Beom-jun, Park Jae-young, the female doctor, and Yoo Jong had all attended the same school. Kim Beom-jun was older and had graduated earlier, but he had been close with Yoo Jong. Back then, when Yoo Jong was upset about the school magazine cover, it was Kim Beom-jun who suggested she ruin the female doctor's reputation by arranging thugs to hurt her. Piecing it all together, the fake Park Jae-young burst out laughing, finally realizing why the female doctor had been following him all along. Just then, the police rang his doorbell, but he had already fled with his luggage. At a bus stop, he sat waiting for the airport shuttle, secretly celebrating his new beginning. Suddenly, a text message came in at midnight. He ignored it, thinking it was just a birthday or Memorial Day reminder, because once he got on that plane, every day would be a lucky day. But the next second, a car screeched to a stop, and several men dragged him inside. It was the loan sharks Park Jae-young had owed. and the deadline had finally come. The car drove into an underground garage, where another car pulled up slowly, and the female doctor's boyfriend took off his coat. It turned out he was the organ surgeon who worked with the loan sharks. After finishing this job, he planned to quit for good, since he had already saved enough money to marry the female doctor and buy a house. The loan boss congratulated them politely, but his parting words sent chills down the spine.
오늘 작업할 때 웬만하면 쓸만한 것들은 다 건져놔. 에? 네가 살려놔도 어차피 우리가 죽일 거야.
At this point, Kim Beam-jun had nowhere to run. He thought taking Park Jae-youn's identity would shield him from the law, but he never realized that Park Jae-youn's life was already doomed. The boyfriend walked up to him and saw the familiar burn scars, immediately recognizing him. As they locked eyes, Kim Beam-jun let out a laugh. He foolishly believed the boyfriend was a good man who might save him, not knowing he was actually the one sent to end him.
제 이름은 김범준입니다. 김범준 84 1207 1081 둘두치.
그때 병원에서 뭐라 그랬는지 기억 안 나요? 그때 얘기했잖아요. 본인 이름.
그건 개인적인 사정이 있어가지고 선생님, 그러니까 그걸 말씀드리자면
쓰레기 같은 인생의 진실이 어딨겠어. 그냥 나오는 대로 짓거리는 거겠지.
His boyfriend strapped a gag on him, and when he held the anesthesia, he hesitated for a moment.
평상시에 마취를 하는데 오늘은 안 할게요. 당신 얼굴을 보는 순간 처음으로 그런 생각이 들었어. 이 알바를 선택하길 잘했다는 생각이.
As the scalpel cut across Kim Beam-jun's body, blood burst out like a fountain. This once arrogant man was now utterly powerless. The boyfriend had chosen the most extreme way to take revenge on behalf of the female doctor. As the camera pulled back slowly, this twisted story of greed, betrayal, and vengeance came to its end. The all-villain setting was undoubtedly the highlight of Karma, a bold exploration of the darkest side of human nature. That's all for today's story. I look forward to seeing you next time.